Welcome back to DeadBall TV, everybody. It is time for the AFC World Cup qualifier recap videos. This is part 1 of 3. This is going to be Group A. If you guys are also interested in Groups B and C and what the heck went down over there, rest assured I will be dropping separate videos going in depth on every single group. And I know that round 3 of qualifying is over, but y'all, we still got Asian Cup qualifiers. We still got round 4. We're going to have an eventual round 5 and then an intercontinental playoff. I feel like we're literally at the halfway mark, even though the World Cup is a year away. What I'm trying to say is there's going to be plenty of Asian content here on DeadBall TV, including my best 11 from AFC round 3. I'm super excited about that. Don't miss that and all the other stuff. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you guys could smash the like button, that'd be much appreciated. Without further ado, man, let's go ahead and get into it. I am going to start with Uzbekistan, who finished in second on 21 points, qualified for their first World Cup ever. I'm going to pause right now, and I'm going to say congratulations to all the Uzbeks out there. Massive achievement, massive dub. You guys deserve it. In match day 9, the Uzbeks had one thing they needed to do. They needed to go to the UAE, and they needed to draw. They didn't even need to win. They just needed 1 point. And that's what they did. And gosh darn it, was it ugly. It was not a good performance. I was live for this on the channel. Pretty brutal, honestly, for most of the game. And I think Yusupov was comfortably the man of the match and the hero for Uzbekistan. It was getting really tense in the last 15 minutes, y'all. But hey, doesn't matter. They got the point. They qualified. Party in the streets. All the Uzbeks get gifted a car. Nobody cares at the end of the day how unconvincing it was. And I would classify it as an unconvincing result. I don't think the UAE were particularly good either. I'll talk about them later in this video. And I kind of thought that the Uzbeks were going to chill, kind of like some of the other teams have chilled a bit when they qualified, right? We're seeing rotation. We're kind of seeing a lethargy out on the pitch. They don't really care once they have qualified for the World Cup. And instead, y'all, the Uzbeks go out against Qatar at home and put together what I would characterize as their best game of qualifying. Yeah, I think it was their best game. I think it was better than Iran 2-2. I think Iran were the slightly better team in that game. The Uzbeks had great moments in that match. And I think maybe you say stakes plus who they're playing against makes it more impressive. I actually think the other game you might be able to nominate is Kyrgyzstan away. I thought that was another really good performance from the Uzbeks overall. Yeah, they leaked 2 goals, but still, I feel like winning away in Bishkek and scoring 3 goals there, pretty tough thing to do. Again, I'll talk about the Kyrgyz Republic later and how freaking epic those guys are at home. But anyways, I digress. The Uzbeks put the smackdown on Qatar. They outshot them 18-1 in this game. Qatar didn't even sniff the net. I mean, they were absolutely locked up, like thrown in maximum security prison, solitary confinement. That's what they did to Akram Afif. I mean, I've never really seen that before. It was really impressive for me. So I don't want to gas this up too much, but I also don't want to dismiss how important it was that they got a victory in this manner. When some other teams failed to do so and replicate other results. I want to talk about the players really quickly. Shomordov, good to see you back on the score sheet, my man. It had been a while. Speaking of the Kyrgyz Republic, man, had not scored since match day 2. Is that surprising that Shomordov ends round 3 with 2 goals? Not really, and it's kind of because of how Uzbekistan play, and I might touch on that a bit later. Abuzbek Fezalayev. I think this guy, in the first 4 games of qualifying, was well below par. But I think ever since the Qatar away game, when the Uzbeks lost 3-2, I think he's arguably been their best player. And I think he's had enough of a complete qualifying cycle to say that he's definitely in the top 3. I would probably go Yusupov, Shukurov, Fezalayev, best 3 players of qualifying for the Uzbeks. Any Uzbeks, let me know if you would put somebody else in the top 3, but I think those guys have been essential. Like maybe you could say Eldor, maybe you could as well. If I had to put a defender, probably Alikulov, honestly, is who I would put there. But anyways, you guys let me know who you would nominate down below in the comments. Now the Uzbeks are in the World Cup. And I was thinking about their campaign overall, and it's a little conflicting, isn't it? Because I think there's a tendency for us to talk about a team where maybe they weren't very lucky, and we could be very critical of them. Like, oh my God, North Korea, for example, like, oh, they're so terrible. They didn't win a game. Like, they suck. And you talk about the Uzbeks, and you're like, it's amazing that they're here. What a story. This football won today. But if you really analyze this campaign overall, and you had to give it a grade on a 1 to 10 scale, I don't think you can give it a 9. I don't think you can give it an 8. I think the Uzbeks were probably a 7 out of 10. I think a 7 out of 10 is fair from this cycle. if you want to go game by game, you can talk about North Korea, where I think the Uzbeks were poor in both of them. I thought they had 2 bad games against North Korea. They had 1 good half. That was the first half of match day 1. Outside of that, not very good against North Korea. And Yusupov saves them 4 points in those games by saving a penalty in each. Like, that's something that we shouldn't just forget about because the Uzbeks are qualified. Only 2 wins in 6 games for the Uzbeks against what I would consider the best teams in the group. UAE, Iran, Qatar. Beat Qatar once, beat UAE once. I don't know if we can give this higher than a 7 out of 10 grade. And I'm kind of talking about this because I want to be fair. I try to criticize and praise every single team. I'll get to the positives in a second, but we cannot act like the Uzbeks are a complete team or they're infallible or there's no weaknesses here, because that's certainly not true. There's a lot of things that they could work on as a unit, and I think they really, really need to start getting more wins. That's why I wanted to see them do the double on the UAE, because I thought that the UAE, while they're not a powerhouse, they're a B-tier side, and I think doing the double against them would have mattered. But as of now, the only teams they did the double on were Kyrgyzstan and North Korea, which, with all due respect, the Uzbeks should be doing that comfortably already. So there's a bit of a worry and a concern in my heart where I'm like, okay, if they had been in a harder group, or once they're going to be at the World Cup, if it is a difficult group, how are these guys going to play? How are they going to look? Because there's definitely not a invincibility here to the Uzbeks. I would say there are several teams that could give them a lot of trouble. Now, to counter me, you could look at the Iran games and say, like, hey, these guys have battled Iran better than any other team in Asia, and I would agree. And I think if you look at the games, did the Uzbeks deserve to win either? Definitely not the game at home. Did they deserve to win away? I wouldn't say that as well. I don't really know if Iran deserved to win per se. What I'm saying is there's still a lot of room for improvement for Uzbekistan. They're still not the finished product. I even think the lineup at times still needs a bit tinkering. Now, don't get me wrong. Those are the criticisms. Those are the concerns. There's a ton of positives. Number one, I think finishing with 1 loss in the group is really, really impressive. Like, how many people in the groups came out were like, yep, Uzbeks got 1 loss here. Maybe I was doing that because I do fangirl for the Uzbeks every once in a while, but I was really thinking like, okay, Qatar could get them. I thought Qatar would get the Uzbeks for 1 game at home, and they did, and I thought that Iran would beat them once. I kind of thought they would split the series. Uzbeks take it at home, Iran take it at home. But they don't, and they only finish on 1 loss, and that is an achievement. That is a milestone. This is by far the best qualifying campaign that the Uzbeks have ever had. And I think the other massive positive is that defensively, these guys prove that they're the real deal. Like, they prove that they are legit. And I think if we're ranking the best defenses in Asia, you have to put the Uzbeks, I would say, top 4. I think they have an argument for top 3. And I think their main comparison are guys like Australia or Iraq. Maybe you could make an argument for somebody else. But those are the teams that kind of sticking out as I'm recording this video. Saudi Arabia, you could say as well. But I think why I'm comfortable saying the Uzbeks have a top 3 defense is because they don't play defensive football. Does that make sense? I think with Australia, with all due respect, they don't want the ball. They just park the bus. So it's a little bit easier to be good at defense when you play 2 holding midfielders and you play with a back 4 and everybody tucks in and you have Mitchell Duke or Yankee on an island up top. You are going to have pretty good defensive stats. Australia and the Uzbeks do not play the same at all. The Uzbeks play possession football. It's slow build-up football. It's very wide and slow is how I would describe the Uzbek style of play, and yet they still have a great defensive record. So I think that will have to be the backbone for any success at the World Cup. I do think there are some question marks here, but make no mistake, the Uzbeks are still a very good side, but it's not a perfect window, and so I think we need to be realistic in our praise is really all I'm saying here. I'll move on to Iran. Man, what an ugly ass window. I don't really know what else to say. The 1-0 loss to Qatar, Iran's first loss to Qatar in qualifying since 1997. That was 10 qualifiers ago. So 10 World Cup qualifiers just against Qatar ago since their last loss. And I mean, I could really talk about this one and blow up about, oh, this is the worst result ever and Galinoy out and all this stuff. But it is important to remember that Iran were missing a bunch of players. And I think Qatar's goal was very fortunate. I mean, it's a Baranvand error. And Baranvand is definitely on his last leg now. If there was any Iranians that were holding out hope, I think that's been squashed. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The North Korea 3-0 win. My concern here is that Iran didn't score until North Korea got the red card. That's the one thing where I'm looking at this and I'm like, hold on a second. You don't score against 10-man North Korea until the 75th minute. I know they got the red in the 65th, but Iran at home, I mean, outside of the UAE game, they were fantastic against the UAE at home. I guess at Qatar, they started rough. Qatar scored first, but that was also a very good Iranian performance at home. But like the Kyrgyz game was pretty mid. North Korea game was pretty mid. Are they just playing down? Is it because so many players were missing? Is it both? Is it Galinoy? I haven't really reached a conclusion on this yet, but I did think it was a bit concerning. Now, Mokanlu did have an opportunity to score for Iran, I guess pretty early in the game, so maybe they wouldn't have waited until the 75th minute if he did not miss a quite literally open net, which if you're Iranian, you've seen them miss 1,000 times on Twitter. The guy's getting absolutely dragged. And how he continues to make the national team call-up list, I don't know. Like maybe he's married to Galinoy's niece or something. That's really, that or blood money. That's really the only thing that can explain it to me. Yeah, a lot of players were missing this window. I think we need to take that into context. But I should treat all teams equally here, including the Iranians. And I think I'm very critical of Japan when Japan barely cared near the end of qualifying. And I kind of have to give Iran the same energy here. I think the lethargy, which is how I would describe it in match day 9 and 10 that we saw from these guys, highlights a mentality issue, highlights a focus issue that is endemic in the squad, and I think it seeps into like almost every single player. I think Iran have a couple dogs left in the team, and I think the rest of them are just apathetic largely to qualifying, and Iran are good enough to where that's not going to cost them here, but at the World Cup, man, this team is in serious trouble, and I think there's a good likelihood that they get grouped. Now, to Galinoy, the reason I'm not 100% Galinoy out is because I don't know a lot of options for a manager that they can bring in here that seriously decreases the likelihood of Iran getting grouped. Now, people say Ange Postecoglou. Well, Postecoglou is going to go all-out blitz mode with Iran. And to be fair, Iran have, I think, the best attack in Asia. I still think Mohebi, Azmoun, Taremi, Gaye, the best attack in Asia. I think it's better than Japan's. But you still have an ass defense. You still have Khalilzadeh in the back, who's a travesty. And you have Baron Vond, who should probably be replaced by the guy who started against North Korea. And I can't remember his name here. But I guess I just don't see as many solutions for Iran as some other Iranians do. That's why I'm hesitant to be like, yeah, kick out Galinoy and just bring in somebody else. I mean, we're talking about Carlos Queiroz round 3, y'all. Like, it's really peaked. The Iranian fan base is really in a dark place, despite you guys finishing first in Group A on 23 points, winning 7 out of 10 games. And I think this is fascinating to analyze because I would say what? Comment down below. 20% of the Iranian fans are happy right now. Winning the group, 7 wins from 10, 23 points. You guys are scoring 2 goals a game. 20% of the fans, I would say, are happy. The other 70% are furious. 10% have renounced citizenship. That's where the Iranian fan base is right now. And it's such an interesting situation because I guess it's just the curse of expectations. What do they say? Like, expectations are the reason we feel disappointment or something. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is a case of the fan base having unrealistic expectations. I think that's fair to say. I think Iranians think they're better than they actually are. And maybe that is a large source of the eternal sadness that these guys feel. I still think they're a good team. I still would have them as probably the second best team in Asia. But their World Cup has a hard ceiling on it as far as I'm concerned. And if they don't find a way in the friendlies that they have over the next year to patch up the defense, I'm talking like 3 clean sheets in a row, stop getting red cards too, I think they're cooked. But it hasn't been all bad. Iran is not a doom story. This is not gloom and doom here. But it's also not like a sunshine and rainbows at the same time. Let me move on to Qatar. Y'all, how do we grade Qatar's window? I genuinely have no idea. Like, you have the 1-0 win against Iran at home. Decently fortunate, in my opinion. I don't think Iran deserved to win. Did Qatar deserve to win? Not really. Probably a draw was the fair result. And then you get blown out 3-0 by the Uzbeks. Your worst game of qualifying. Just absolutely locked up. And for Lopetegui specifically, is this a wash? Is this a good window? Is this a bad window? Neutral? Do we have any takeaways here? I really don't know. I think if Qatar had lost to Uzbekistan 1-0, and played well, or even 2-1, I don't care. Just put up a good performance. I'd have been like, oh, Lopetegui, man, he's cooking. And I think he was kind of cooking. I was like, damn, I back this appointment. He beats Iran, Iran's rotated team. I'm feeling good. Ball knowledge on display. And then I see that Uzbek game, and I'm like, whoa. And I know Qatar rotated too, but whoa. That should have been a 6-0. And so the fact the thrashing was so bad kind of has a bad taste in my mouth. And here we go. Jack, the game doesn't matter. God, I hate people who think like this. I think it's the worst mentality that could perpetuate sports. The point of sports is to win. And when you're representing your national team, I would say there's even like you're almost honor bound to try at all times. Otherwise, take off the shirt, give it to somebody else who's going to run. And so I'm not excusing Qatar, much like I'm not excusing Iran, and I'm not excusing Japan or Uzbekistan. I wouldn't excuse anybody for putting out a shit performance just because you qualified. It's still a World Cup qualifier. Let's not even act like Qatar know what their best 11 is. Your manager just freaking got there as well. He doesn't even have that many reps with his tactics. You would have thought that a game against the Uzbeks in Tashkent would be great preparation for round 4. Wouldn't you? Am I crazy for saying that? That a game against Uzbekistan would have been great practice for competitive World Cup qualifiers that Qatar is going to face in round 4. And instead, the lineup is shit, the performance is terrible, and you wasted an opportunity. And if anything, you lowered morale. Probably pissed off Akram Afif too, which I'll get into it now. Easily his worst window, probably the worst consecutive games I've ever seen from Akram Afif for Qatar. And that's what is really raising an eyebrow for me for Lopetegui. Because if you make the best individual player in Asia look bad, and when I say bad, he had one chance created in this window. Y'all, he was averaging 4 per game. Per game, he was averaging 4 chances created. He was the runaway MVP of qualifying, and he still might be because he was just that good. But the fact that he looked bad in the first 2 games under Lopetegui, you better hope it was just because nobody was trying. You better hope they get Asian Cup of FIFA in round 4, because if they don't get Asian Cup of FIFA, Qatar's in trouble. Like, make no mistake, you need him and you need Almoz Ali to ball out. That is the only way forward for Qatar. I like that Lopetegui went back to the back 4. That back 3 crap. Qatar do not have the personnel. That is suicidal. So go back to the back 4. I like that. But you got to get Afif involved, man. He has to be touching the ball 75 times per game. That's going to be the key to success. So Qatar finished in 4th place on 13 points. And that doesn't sound very impressive. But what blows my freaking mind is they took 13 points total, but they took 6 points from their 4 games against Uzbekistan and Iran. Are you kidding me? They were the only team to beat both of those guys. How is that possible? How does Qatar beat Uzbekistan and they beat Iran and you don't automatically qualify? And honestly, you automatically qualify on match day 9 to round 4. Like, that's how bad it was. You were hanging on, bro. But you beat the 2 best teams in the group? Like, imagine if they played everybody else the way that they played the big boys. Speaking of the big boys, here's how the other teams performed against Uzbekistan and Iran. The UAE took 1 point from those 4 games. North Korea, 0 points. Kyrgyzstan, 0 points. Qatar, 6 points. And they finished in 4th. I just don't understand, man. I think how they played against the UAE here and losing in Bishkek away, criminal, man. Qatar are the most confusing team in Asia. It's nobody else. Qatar are the most confusing team in Asia. Iraq looked like a simple puzzle compared to Qatar. I swear down, bro. And this is exactly why I think they're such a dangerous team in round 4, especially if they host. If they host, they're going to do it. I'm fully confident that they're going to do it just because this is who Qatar are and Afif and Almoz Ali are those guys. But they're so weird, man. Last thing I want to say here, I had this tweet about how Asian teams have done against the Big 5 since 2015. Japan, South Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Australia. That's the Big 5. Saudis, whatever. Just entertain me, humor me. In official games against those 5 opponents, no friendlies, all official, all qualifiers, all Asian Cup, Qatar have played 11 games. They have 6 wins. They have 6 wins against the best 5 teams in Asia. In the last decade, they have 5 losses. They have a positive win record. They have a positive KD ratio in official games against the best teams in Asia. Does that make any sense? I mean, and that doesn't include Uzbekistan, who they beat twice in the last two years. I mean, these guys, bro, I honestly, I have no adjective to describe them. I think it's absolutely insane. We'll see what the draw is like. We'll see who hosts round 4, but man, these guys got a chance, I'm telling y'all. Moving on, we'll do the UAE next. They finished in 3rd place, 15 points, 4 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. Perfectly mid. I think that sums up the UAE. Perfectly mid. And I'm sorry if this is offensive, but the UAE, for the talent they have, should be clearly better than teams like Palestine, Oman, Bahrain, I would even say Indonesia. And yet, can anybody say that confidently? Can anybody say that the UAE are clear of those 4 teams? You could say, yeah, Jack, they're a little better. Sure, I'll grant you that. They're a little better than Oman. Yeah, they are. They're a little better than Palestine. Yeah. It shouldn't be this close. They have way too much firepower for this to be a discussion. There's just something about this team. I don't know if it's the constant introduction of Brazilians or what, but they just seem to not have what it takes when the moment is happening. When they are called upon to do it, they just can't. And we can talk about the 0-0 draw at home against Uzbekistan. Y'all, this was a must-win game. And Kosmin, the new manager, comes in for Bento. You guys know my thoughts on that. I think it was a ridiculous decision. And he starts Yahya Al-Ghassani and Karib Abdullah, 2 of the UAE's top 4 players, on the bench for Kiao Lucas and what's my other guy's name? Longino. And those guys were terrible. And the UAE kind of start going in the 75th minute, but it's too little too late, and they can't win. And just like that, I'm like, well, hold on a second. This is how you guys play in a must-win game? It just seemed like they had surrendered to round 4 already. And when we talk about Iran and mentalities, that's not a great mentality from the UAE. You guys should be better than this. You guys should be pushing teams like Saudi Arabia even in the AFC hierarchy. Then you go away to Kyrgyzstan and you score first, end up conceding late, you draw 1-1, and it's just another mid performance. I know Bishkek is hard, but like, I just don't know how many great games these guys have had outside of playing Qatar. When they play Qatar, they turn into the Argentine national team. I should say Brazilian national team because they are Brazilian. And then when they play anybody else, they're Malaysia. I don't understand it. Like, I really don't get what's holding them back. Like, I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm selling. I'm selling on this team. They scraped by North Korea twice. They deserved maybe 1 point from the 2 games against North Korea. They dropped this game in Bishkek. They get bodied by Iran. They just seem to demonstrate time and time again that against the big teams, they don't have what it takes. Which is weird because I feel like 2010 to 2015 UAE, when Ali Makbout was leading the line, I mean, they took down Japan. They took down good teams in Asia. And I would say moderately consistently. In this next group of players, like I said, they're good. I mean, if they're all going to have FIFA ratings, everybody on this team's ranked between 77 and 81. And I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Like for Asian standards, this is like a B- team. They're not bad. But it's like salsa that's got no taste. It's like, I don't know why I would put this on my taco. I'm just going to leave this in the pantry. Man, I really feel like it's scary hours. Scary hours for the UAE. You sack Bento, you bring in Kosmin, and you get 2 points in this final window. I don't know, man. Yeah, I think they're praying to the Lord above that they get Qatar in round 4, because if they don't, I think they're toast. Kyrgyzstan, unfortunately unable to beat North Korea in their must-win game, and honestly, I think because Qatar won that it was over anyways, but the fact that these guys were down 2-0 and battled back away from home, I talked about this in my Matchday 9 recap, that's something that we haven't really seen from Kyrgyzstan ever, and I think that that's a testament to this team improving. I think they genuinely have improved so much even since the Asian Cup. to like staggering levels, I would say. Because you could have made the argument at that tournament they were the worst team. I mean, them or Hong Kong or Vietnam. Those were the bottom 3 sides. I want to talk about their home form for a second. 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses in Bishkek. Gave both the UAE and Iran and Uzbekistan games, man. Like, straight up slugfests. Like, those teams, Iran and Uzbekistan, really had to work for those victories in these games. And Bishkek continues to be the best home field advantage in all of Asia. And honestly, they should have beat the UAE on the final day as well. I'm looking at the campaign overall, and I really don't know what Kyrgyzstan could have done better. Probably not getting massacred away from home repeatedly, but even then, their home form was so good that I feel like overall it kind of cancels that out for me. I mean, they took 8 points here, y'all. That's not bad. Like, typically the terrible teams in round 3 finish on what? 4, 5 points, something like that. Maybe 6. They get 2 wins at home or something like that. They took 8 points, and they probably deserved 10. And 10 was probably the absolute ceiling for what these guys could have done. I think the Kyrgyz Republic had an amazing round 3. Like, I really think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about here, except the away form. I talked about the home form, 2 wins there, 1 draw. Away from home, 1 draw, 4 losses, 10 goals conceded, 3 goals scored. It was 1 goal scored before North Korea in match day 9. And honestly, if Tokatev didn't have the game of his life in Tashkent, that game probably should have ended 5-0. So really, the away form is awful. They, I think, are the worst traveling side in round 3. I think they are. It's them or China. Those guys just cannot get a result away from home. But I still think there is room for optimism here. They have definitely outperformed my expectations, and I think they've earned the respect of many teams, especially in those Bishkek games. And I think they've demonstrated that there's some youth players here to build on for the next cycle. And I don't know what the next Asian Cups are going to look like in terms of hosting or, you know, what the draws will be for the Kyrgyz Republic moving forward. But if they get the opportunity to host an Asian Cup, I wouldn't be shocked if they made the quarterfinals. And as long as they're able to play games in that fortress, they're going to be in qualification at all times. Kimi Merk is 20 years old. Kenzabayev is 21. Tokatev, 24. Brosman, 21. Atabayev, 23. Like, there's a lot. Shukurov, their best player, is 25. There's a lot here for the next cycle. And if they get maybe a group that's not as top-heavy next time, if they get maybe a little bit more parity in the rest of the groups, they could be a dark horse to qualify. And I'll conclude here with North Korea. Finishing last, 7 losses and 3 draws in this round, 3 points total. I will be brutally honest about these guys. And I truly mean this. If they got to play in Pyongyang, they might have finished in 4th. Actually, I would have backed them to finish in 4th. And on that for a second, I kind of think it's BS that the first 3 home games are in East Asia, Southeast Asia specifically, and then the last 2 home games, they have to go to the Middle East. Like, how is that fair at all? And how is that home field advantage for North Korea? Why wasn't every North Korea game hosted in China? That's what I don't understand. You telling me China doesn't have another stadium that these guys could have played in? They're diplomatic allies anyways. It's not that China, would they have said no? I feel like the Chinese FA would have been more than happy to host North Korea, especially because North Korea in round 2 was supposed to play Japan. The Chinese hate the Japanese. They're like, absolutely, come in here and please take down Japan for us. That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like even in the UAE game specifically, that's like home field advantage for the UAE. What are we doing here? That was kind of some AFC cheese. And I think in the East Asia games, we saw better performances from them as well. Like against Uzbekistan, man, again, if they don't get their penalty saved, they take a point. Against the Uzbeks, they really had the Uzbeks sweating. At Qatar, they get a draw. They almost draw against Iran. I mean, and then for their easiest two most manageable home games, UAE and Kyrgyzstan, you go to the Middle East? It just made no freaking sense. It kind of pissed me off. I feel like they were already up against it, not just because it's North Korea and they don't even, I mean, they're playing like in their own domestic league. God knows what happens there. But, you know, they can't play in Pyongyang. And it really kind of upsets me because, look, you can feel however you want to feel about North Korea as a country, but their people still deserve to feel happiness, and their players still deserve the chance to qualify for a World Cup through merit, and I still think their fans deserve the chance to see their national team play, God damn it. And so I don't like this, and much like Palestine, which I'll talk about in my Group B, man, I think if they got home field advantage, dude, I guarantee you Group A is completely different. I think we have an entirely different order almost. Maybe Iran still finished first. The rest of this, chaos. Absolute chaos if North Korea actually got to play any games there. But anyways, they finished with the lowest points of any team in round 3. So that's not good. But I don't know if they were the worst team. I'm getting hipster, conspiratorial. I don't think they were the worst team, man. I think they were very, very close from getting a couple wins here. Like, crazy close. I think they got crazy unlucky. Would they go 1 for 4 from the penalty spot? So that's 1 point dropped against the Uzbeks. Actually, 2 points dropped against the Uzbeks. And 2 points dropped against the UAE. That's +4. So really, I feel like they should have been on 7. It's interesting who was worse. North Korea, Kuwait, Bahrain, or even China. I know China have 9 points, but were China better than North Korea? Performance-wise? I don't think so. You guys can argue with me in the comments. I don't think performance-wise North Korea was worse than China. I just think China has unbelievable home support. Credit to them. Credit to China. I'll talk about them in Group C. But I think the North Koreans outplayed them in a lot of games. They had some stinkers. Iran away, not a great offensive game. First half against the Uzbeks. Second half against the UAE, not great. But overall, man, they were a solid side. The defense is trash. Ju Hyuk-kang is probably the worst goalkeeper. Is he the worst goalkeeper? One of the worst goalkeepers. Barsham is the worst goalkeeper in round 3. I don't know, man. I just feel for them, though. Next cycle, we'll see what happens when they get to play games at home. But overall, guys, those are my thoughts on Group A. You let me know if there's anything I forgot to mention. Like I said, I'll be dropping these videos, which I know this got a little ranty near the end, but hey, that's what happens when the sun's going down and your man has not had any coffee. Groups B and C dropping soon. AFC round 3 best 11 dropping soon. Other videos about AFC dropping soon. Asian Cup qualifiers dropping soon. Even an Arab Cup video dropping soon. See, if you didn't watch to the end, you wouldn't know that. I haven't announced that anywhere, but that stuff's coming soon. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.